not waiting till last minute or anything like that. I've always had a male coach from the time, that I got into bodybuilding, all the way up to just, I guess about the past 3 years, 2 years. Then I did a lot on my own for my off season. I felt like I knew exactly what my body needed and how I needed to bring certain things out. So I just kind of took myself underneath my own belt. I'm very pleased with how I built my off seasons. I still have a little bit of areas I need to focus on within the next year, going into the next year. But I'm not going to let that slow me down. And, we're just, again, moving forward. I think the biggest thing is I got my pro card as a female bodybuilder. However, I'll be debuting with the women's physique division. So for me, being, an elite power lifter at one time, lifting heavy, things like that. And then, now having to kind of tame things down a little bit, and it's a whole new world. I did, before I got my pro card, I was doing women's physique, but as um, at the time, before you go pro as an NPC, I was too big for the division, and one of the coaches had just said, or one of the judges just said, you know what, you'd be better off getting your pro card in the women's bodybuilding, or you're never going to get your pro card as a physique. You're just too big. So that's what I did, and now I have my pro card. But I'm going to go back to what I originally wanted to do, and that was women's physique division.
That's so sad because the shows are so few, especially for pro qualifications. They just had a show in Spain. It was I think it was Olympia Amateur Spain. They only had one woman compete for a pro card for women's bodybuilding, and then you have the numbers like figure and physique have a lot of numbers. Bikini, you're gonna have 500,000, and now you have new division fit model. Excuse me. I mean, I'm not a fan of it. I feel like it's. I understand the purpose of it. No, I don't. I'm not. I keep telling myself, stop saying you understand. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I get their point and their view why they started this. But me as a fan, especially of the women's body division and even the physique division, I feel like this is a division that might eventually push y'all out because there's some shows that got dropped. They dropped women's bodybuilding. Texas Pro because your family was in Texas, and that would be a great show to make your debut. But you still can do women's bodybuilding and women's physique. Also, there was one point you're in Tampa right there. They were almost about to drop, women's bodybuilding. But shout out to Jake Wood. Yo, Jake, I want that money. I want that gun. He stepped in, him and Leopold, and saved it. But even physique had lost some shows this year. I mean, they were the shows this past weekend was the Legion. It was just the Legion Sports Festival. And the former two-time physique champion, Sneak Grant, made her wellness debut, but it dropped both physique and figure from that show. There's a show also in Florida, which is the Daytona Pro. They're not doing open, but they're still doing masters. So that's a possibility because this year they got the Masters Olympia, and there's also any shows after that's qualification for the next Masters Olympia, I think in 2027.
So yeah, you know what, and this is the thing. We've gone down this road before. I don't know if it's I don't know if the new division, the fit model, has anything to do with it. To be honest, I don't think so, because I started seeing a decline with women's bodybuilding prior to the division coming out this year. But I thought we would all learn what's going to happen the first time around when they got rid of women's bodybuilding altogether. And this is what you're already going to see. You're going to see the women's bodybuilding having very scarce shows. And a lot of us do not want to travel outside of our country just to go do shows. And we want the same opportunity as any other division, more than just one or two or three shows here and there. what is that going to do? Where is that going to lead to? It's pretty much it's not giving fair opportunity. However, I do understand it's all about the money. It's all about, who's bringing the dough to the shows. Um, but what's going to happen is what did the first time. Women's bodybuilders are not all huge, and they can taper down, and they're going to bunk on down to the women's physique division. And then the women's physique division, if they're not more of the V taper with the small waist and the detailing and everything else like that, with a wow factor for their back, and the hamstrings and glutes not dialed in, and they're smaller, not to say the smaller, but they don't have the detailing, then they're going to be bunked out. And they're going to be upset. I already hear some of the women's physique divisions like, oh my goodness, that's not a women's physique, that's a bodybuilder. No, she still meets the criteria of the women's physique division. And so then you're going to find that some people are going to go from the physique division and go down to the figure. And it happened before, and it's going to happen again. And so you're going to have a lot of unhappy competitors.
Yeah, well, I remember when physique first started, there was a lot of women moving down. But here was this. This was because they were bringing still those bodybuilding aesthetics to it, and then that kind of changed it. Because if you look at, the last Olympia, you got Sharonka Hinton, who's been a multiple-time Olympic competitor. She looks like the guidelines for women's physique. Some would say Natalia looks there, but then you look at Sarah Vilgas, even though she's a little smaller, her condition is just, I think it's the standard now. And you look at over at women's bodybuilding, like one person who I'm a fan of, to me, she came in and she saved the division when it was going through hard times, when she came and won the Olympia back in 2020, and that is Andrea Shaw. And I'm a fan of Andrea. I mean, I'm just a fan
Yeah.
of her. I think she's a beautiful physique, great look, great femininity. I doubt surely she'd be able to squeeze down to women's physique, but
No,
that's the plus.
she would not be able to squeeze it down. No, she's one that would not be able to, and I don't think she ever has any intentions. I believe she was actually women's physique and had to go up a division, if I'm right. So I definitely not. But there are those who can dial down and meet the criterias of a woman's physique division. You saw the last couple, the New York Pros, a perfect example of what they're looking at. The overall winner. Oh my goodness, what's her name? I follow her
Chelsea,
too.
Chelsea Dion.
No, 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 no. For women's physique.
Oh, women's physique. Oh, you mean that was, I think that was
The
Natalia.
real Lois Lane. I always know them by Instagram. The real
Oh,
Lois
you
Lane.
mean New York? No, no, no. But you mean Rachel Daniels? She won Optima. Natalia won New York, and
Oh,
Rachel. Yeah,
Rachel. Okay,
Rachel took
Rachel.
second.
You're right. She came in second.
And
However, and then she came in first. The last show she just did, which I can't
right,
remember what it was.
it was
So,
Optima
so
Classic.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. Thank you. So she's a good example. She lifts hard. She has definitely has those muscle bellies and everything else. But what she also has is she was able to taper in and get rid of some of that bulkiness and have that sharp, small waist. And she took the show. And so I think she's a good example of what you might be seeing more on the stage this year, which I think is great. So she definitely has a style of her own, but that's what we should be doing, is bringing our own style to the stage. You know, to me, she's one that could go either or, you know,
Mhm.
either or female bodybuilding or women's physique if she wanted to.
Yeah, I think it's one thing. Some women don't want to put on that size and that much muscle. But then, as good as one person's a good example of that is Ashley Jones, who was, when she started out, she was doing figure. Then she did physique for a couple of years, and now she's in women's bodybuilding, number 3 in the world both in the Olympia and the World Bodybuilding Championship for women. I mean, I think it's about how you grow as an athlete and where
Yeah.
you want to go. I mean, some competitors don't want to go win battle because they feel like there's not enough shows for them. The big problem is that not enough promoters want to give that division the opportunity. And like I said again, the promoters are even kind of getting the same stink eye to women's physique.
Now say that last part again.
I think some promoters are getting seen stink eye to women's physique because, you know, like I said again, there was a couple of shows that did drop women's physique from the lineup because they don't have the
Oh,
sponsorship. Yeah, because you know, so few sponsors for, you know, like there was a show. I think Natalia, she put the money for women's bodybuilding at the Triple O last year, but they didn't have it this year. The show that's had this weekend, the Legions Festival, didn't have it because he used to have it. I interviewed the lady who won the show last year, the day before she won the show, and then she posted that they dropped it this year. And I interviewed a lady who did the show before. They dropped figure. And then, you know, there's a show in Daytona that said they dropped the women's open, but they have the masters because with masters, you just got to pay. You don't have to. With, you know, I think one thing I think the problem is finding promoters and sponsors who are willing to put the money behind it.
right, right. Well, it is kind of interesting to see why I personally think, and this is just my own personal opinion. I think we did see a decline with women's physique division, but I think it's going to start going back up. I think we're going to see. So we'll see what happens to women's. I do worry about the women's bodybuilding. I see open. Not just masters, but also open, where, like you said, not as women are, going in those categories. However, the shows are also not offering, those categories as much, and I know for me, when I wanted to do the women's bodybuilding, I was really frustrated, because I'm like, I don't have any shows to choose from. I'm very limited on my shows, and I want to be able to choose when I'm going to compete, not based on when the next show is, and worried that you're not going to be able to, get too many shows throughout the year. And I don't want to have to travel. I'm one of those that I do not want to leave the country to do a show, that's why I decided to go down to the women's physique division. Not that I think it's going to be any easier. I think, if anything, it's going to be very hard because I am a thick woman. So there's a lot that I have to bring down, and I have to also get the posing. I was not the greatest at posing to begin with, but I put a post up saying, like, but I will be. So there's a lot of new stuff that I have to learn, and that's why I think Lindsay's going to be great for me, because she's been a pro competitor in women's physique division, so she can definitely lead me in that direction. So I'm pretty excited to see what will happen.
Well, I hope so because we can't wait. Because like I said, it's been nearly 4 years since you turned pro, and I mean, I know some ladies some ladies they take a long time. They want to take time to grow and work on things, and also because of the cost of you ladies, I say it's a lot more. It's a bit more expensive compared to the men because the guys all you do is wear a pair of banana hammocks and board shorts. Y'all ladies have to have your hair done, your makeup,
Yeah.
your
Suit.
posing suits, everything. I
Yeah.
mean, and then
Yeah.
just also the cost of traveling to the shows. You said again because you don't want to go out of the country, and it's only like
Yeah.
I think it's two shows this month where they're out of the country. Actually, three. But one's within the continental U.S. You have the Toronto Super Show, which is coming this next weekend. Actually, this weekend because this is the first new week, so it's gonna come in this Saturday, Sunday. So next Sunday, might as well say. And also, you have a show in Spain and a show in Portugal, and those have women's physique and women's bodybuilding. The show in Omaha Pro, that's just exclusively physique only. So, folks, we have Susan here. So, what we're going to do is, folks, if you want to follow her, check her link in the description of this live stream. Reach out in genuine interest and support, see what she's up to, get some information, talk to her. Even if you are someone maybe interested in sponsoring her, because sponsorship does help these competitors. But guys, she's a lovely lady. And I enjoyed the interview the first time we did it. We were very, like, that was fun. But guys, be respectful, guys. No D pics. Stop it. Get some
Yeah.
help.
Yeah. And on that note, definitely, I've had a lot of, thank you for saying that. I do appreciate it because I I I did do everyone knows, like, I did an OnlyFans way back when, and everything. And at that time, that, that was the direction I was going. I was like, but then I got to a point where I'm like, do I want to focus on being an athlete, or am I going to be focus on being an adult entertainer? And my views changed, and which is great. That's why, life is great, because we're not stuck with what we have, and we can make changes within our lives, and that's great. So yes, a lot of people ask, are you still, touring and things like that? No, no, I put that all behind me. I decided that being known as an athlete definitely has more, uh, that means more to me. I would rather be known as a good female bodybuilder. We've got tons of sexy women out there. I just don't find it rewarding and what I want to go for. I would rather some man say, your traps are amazing, instead of your tatas are amazing,
Hey, you
So,
got to think about, guys. We'll carry your traps and tatas are amazing. Hey, with me, we'll say both are amazing, because we don't care. So we're gonna jump into her IG right here. You're gonna follow her. The links in the description here. And like I said, it's been a while since we've seen her, and she looks really good. I mean, I know, it's been a while. What's the thing you're still working on now when it comes to your development?
my legs, I've kind of been blessed with the upper body, but I really have to put a lot of effort into my legs. And so that's the one part I was saying earlier. I know I have to bring them out a little bit more. I know, so that's going to be something that's, it's going to go into next year, and still having to put more effort into it. Um, I have to admit, I was a little bit more open-minded with my training, and that made a big difference, because sometimes we can get closed-minded if we're used to lifting a certain way all the time, and then we have to make new changes for new progress, and so that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I understand your point of view about the whole thing moving away from the adult part, because that's the thing, is that there is a fetish to, especially women with muscle. Some guys are attracted to it, some guys not. As you know, my crime is, guys, I'm a muscle person. Yes, I find ladies with muscles very beautiful, attractive, but it's not for everybody. And the point about the whole thing, yeah, the whole thing with the adult part is because it's a way to make money. Because being a bodybuilder, unless because you have a career as a massage therapist, that's a pretty good career, especially in Florida, and it's the, I think,
Physical
state most.
therapist,
Oh, physical.
not
Oh,
massage therapist, physical therapist assistant. Yeah,
oh,
the
physical
big
therapist.
difference.
All right, thank you for correcting me. But yeah, I think that's a good way, because also a lot of athletes will go to, it's part of your recovery, because it helps them dealing with muscle issues and everything that goes with, especially from lifting and just working out. You
Right. Right, definitely. So yeah, we definitely always will need therapists, for whatever age, and in sports, out of sports, as we get older, and that's what I mostly work with, is the geriatric population. Because I really try to reach out to all my clients, my patients, and people who are older need the gym probably even more so than the younger generation, because they're struggling just to keep themselves from falling and breaking a hip, and losing the ability to walk. They just want to be able to hold on to the ability to walk as they're getting older, so I try to encourage all my geriatric patients to, don't think that aging like this is acceptable. Want more.
Yeah, I think often I heard that building muscle helps, kind of, it doesn't stop Father Time, but it can halt it a little bit, slow it down some, because you build muscle, it helps with your bones, it helps with your other ligaments and stuff, but also the smart and right training. Because sometimes when you're older, you can't lift as heavy like you used to. You can't move like you used to.
Right.
I have issues right now with arthritis because it's genetic. I got issue. I got two bad knees like Stone Cold Steve Austin, and it's about finding those things that helps in your process as you grow and develop as an athlete.
Yeah, no, and that's true. And even when I'm getting older, I still have a lot of which makes me feel really good is I still have a lot of young men, young what I would say young men, young men coming up to me who are still in their 20s. Hey, how'd you get your back like that? How'd you get those shoulders to pop out like that? What am I doing wrong? And that makes me feel really good because I am one of the older competitors. However, I will not be throwing out, oh, look at me at 50 something years old, or look at this is what such and such looks like. I hate those because I always have. It's like, I don't want anyone to look at me as amazing because I'm such and such years old. I want people to look at me amazing because I'm just amazing as a bodybuilder. So as long as the young people keep coming up to me and wanting to take pictures and asking me what have I did to get this and what can I do, that makes me feel like I'm on the right track.
Yeah, and it doesn't hurt that you party too, so that doesn't hurt, because I think
Right.
it doesn't hurt that you party too, so
There you go. Yeah.
yeah,
The only thing that I do have to do is I love my sleep. So if it's my obviously most of us who are pros, our training's on point. We don't, there is no missing or there is no, oh, I'm coming back or anything like that. It's like we just never left, it's just us, all the time. But sometimes what, I will be training hard and I'll realize like, what, I'm not benefiting from the gym right now. I'm going to go ahead. So if it's in between, am I going to get 6 hours of sleep when I could get 7.5 hours of sleep, or go to the gym? I'm going to go and get my 7.5 hours of sleep, and I really wish I did that when I was younger because I see a big difference when you're sitting there running on 6 hours of sleep or less. Don't expect for your body to be recovering, and don't expect, there's a look at the ones who are very muscular. Yes, you're right. Food and everything else goes into play, and supplements and things like that. But if you don't do the the general sleep, that's the biggest thing. That's where your growth is going to come from during that time when you're repairing. So I definitely always get my sleep.
yeah. I know. I need sleep. I try to sleep as much as I can. Sometimes I have old habits, especially working early in the nights and late in the mornings. I also have sleep apnea, so I got to do a sleep
Oh,
study.
that's
And
hard.
yeah, I got to do a sleep study in a couple of days. And it just everything's evolved with anything as you are finding things between diet to training to sleep to everything. Like most people, when you think about bodybuilding on the average, it's always the issue of steroids. But I've been told many times by many competitors, be you amateur, be a pro, it's not about the what gear you take. It's only like a small factor to it. It's about being consistent, follow your
Yeah.
diet, being persistent, being disciplined is more than discipline than motivation, because motivation can change from one day to the next.
Yeah, and it's so true. And on that note, I think we always see it on Instagrams and different platforms. Someone always comes up like, "Well, I would look like that too if I did yada 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 yada." Like, no, you probably wouldn't, because I always said, if you are taking something, if you are not natural, then you should be hitting it 3 times harder than the person who is natural. You should be looking like you are not natural. I mean, we do, you wouldn't be taking a supplement like that if you didn't want, if you were trying to look different. Um, you know, I will be one to admit I love muscles. I want to look different. I want to look like I'm kind of like a freak out there in public. I'm proud of that, because that's a lot of hard work and dedication, and discipline. And I'm very proud of building something that not a very small percentage of the population can build. But yeah, it is a very small part. The gear is a very small part of it. I've seen people take gear left and right, and they just look bad. It's just like, well, what happened with all that gear you're taking? You should be like a giant. What you're missing something, something's not right, So yeah, and I've seen a lot of natural people who, I have a friend. She's a pro bikini for the Natural Federation, and and she looks amazing. Different look. You can't compare them. You cannot. They're like apples to oranges. So it just all depends on what lifestyle you want to live and what look you're trying to achieve, and for what reason you're trying to achieve it and want to maintain it. You got to know. You got to know why you're living a certain lifestyle.
Yeah, because that is a lifestyle. You have to, evolve. Everything's involved in that lifestyle is focus on a diet, sticking to your training, be regimental, be consistent. And it's not about what kind of gear you take. If you don't follow those guidelines, you're not going to look like someone like, you look at a good example of someone like you know, the current champion for Mr. Olympia, Samson Duda. You're not going to look
Yeah.
like that guy, or you're not going to look like Andrea or Sid Gillen or any of the others, because if you don't put in the work and the time and be disciplined, then you're just going to end up going, you know what? I mean, why I'm doing this? And again, here, that you have a plan. So, as my other guy says, I don't have a plan. I'm just a dog chasing cars. So, what is your plan, Susan? Can you share your plan for your pro debut?
Yeah, so my plan is, I'm going to be hitting 3 shows this year, and uh, I'm it's going to be good. My pro debut show is going to be the Texas Women's Physique Division in September. So everyone's kind of prepping and already doing their shows, and here I come, the end of the tale though. But you know what? We just want to see what I look like up there on stage, how I'm going to place, and get a feel of how I'm looking like, and everything else like that. Um, I'll be honest, I'm not sitting there saying like, okay, I'm looking for, to go to, Olympia, Masters Olympia or anything like that. But it doesn't mean I'm not going to try my hardest, and put 1,000%. I am one of those that, for me, age to me, I'm not going to limit myself to just masters. I want to compare myself with the others on stage and open as well. I did that, all my life. I would never let that number, affect me. I went into the Army at 40 years old, ended up graduating with honors, and my face is floating around in some hall of fame, for the highest PT score, So, and I remember back then, they're like, oh, you're 40 years old. Those kids are going to just trample all over you. They didn't. I trampled all over them. And it's not because I was like anything amazing. It's just that I just had just a little bit more desire and to be the top, so age, definitely, I try to keep that out completely and just go by what I can do as an athlete myself. And so we'll see how this year goes. This year, what the outcome comes with this year with the shows will dictate on what my plan will be for the following year.
Well, Texas is probably one of the biggest shows right now. Sarah Vega, she's been putting up the prize money for the last 3 or 4 years, $15,000. Also, if you crack the top 10, you still get like $1,000. Or if like the first five would get whatever amount they get, and then everybody else from 6 to 10 gets $1,000. If you can get in the top 10, you get $1,000. It's a good chunk of change. Not much compared to the price of going to Texas and cost of this and that. And other shows, well, this is shows like I said, if you hadn't have already set up a plan, there's as mentioned earlier, there's Tampa. That's maybe I don't know. I think that's in July. There's the Arizona Pro, and there
Daytona, Daytona, they have the Daytona Masters, like you had mentioned. They don't have
yeah
the Open, but they have the Masters. Yeah,
yeah, and there's I think
yeah.
there's a couple other shows. And also there's a show in Mississippi called the Tupelo, but that's the same week as the it's actually August the 9th, 8th to the 9th. That's the same week as the Texas Pro, and that's in Tupelo, Mississippi. But I don't know why they have the same time. Whoever set that's scheduled for the promotion for that show, you're gonna lose a lot of bodies because especially for women's physique, because that's where they have open for that show, women's physique for Tupelo. You're gonna lose a lot of bodies because everybody's gonna do the Texas show. Say, hey, I got a chance. If I could probably get $15,000. But then again, this is a confirmation that because I follow certain competitors. Zama Benta, who won Tampa and Texas last year, is doing Texas again. And Zama, I mean, you ever seen her? I mean, her body's just crazy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know what? I haven't, so I mean, I'll look into. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she's from Brazil. She did compete in did one women's bodybuilding show, and it was back in 2022. She was in the top three, and that was in Romania.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, she got her first Olympic qualification in 2023. She made top three, and then she dropped out. So I think she was in top five. But just her physique is crazy, and this is amazing women like some ladies out there who are really growing and developing. And is other than Rachel, who do you follow that you're a fan of?
You know what? I'll have to sit there and say, other than Rachel, Chelsea, for she's not physique division, but she's bodybuilding. And the reason why is because I followed her a long time ago before she got her pro card. And, she always looked good, but she never really placed very well. And that was just because I think she loved to party and loved to eat, to be honest, and to see her grow and her defeat some of her weaknesses. And then the last couple of years, she just flourished. It's almost like I feel like she just kind of woke up and said, here I am. Okay. I know I've got it, what it takes to do this. So I'm going to wake up and do what I'm supposed to do and put my best foot forward. And then you just saw her take off, so it was really a lot of fun to see her, whatever that aha moment was. You can almost see like her timeline was here she is, and all of a sudden it was like whoop, she got it, and she's going to stay on top. And I always love to see women who may have been struggling and was able to defeat whatever it was that kept them down. She was able to get out of that bubble.
Yeah, Chelsea's amazing. I mean, she did pretty good this year. She was top three at Triple O. She won the Vancouver Isle Show. She won the New York Pro. She says this year she's not doing the Rise of Phoenix because they changed that show. It's no longer open show. It's open show now because they changed the prize money and anybody can compete in that show because you have the Rise of Phoenix Arizona Pro and
Right.
Rise of Phoenix is women's bodybuilding, but now it's an open show, which means that you don't have to worry about the top contenders like Andrea or Angela or even Ashley Jones. And that's one person right now. I know she's doing an interview with a friend of mine. His name is Glenn. Ashley Jones. She's amazing. I mentioned
She
her
is. She
earlier.
looks amazing. I followed her. I love. I can look at her pictures all day.
I mean, me too, but my crime again, I must very small. I can look at y'all ladies pictures all day, but I gotta be careful, but but yeah, I think it's a lot of work and time got put into sport and a lot of sacrifices, and as you said earlier, you were in the military, and I would say thank you for your service. I say as a citizen, I appreciate the sacrifice that you have made for this country. And especially being a mom and being having kids and like just like I said, oh, happy belated Mother's Day because
Thank you.
yeah, no problem. And I know your kids, they support you and they say that's our mom. And and did any of them come to your shows when you were competing?
No, I asked them not to. They've always been very proud of me. They'd always, even to this day, they'll be like, "Oh, you should see my mom." My daughter, when she was going to college, so they were talking about working out, and so she's like, "Oh, my mom works out. She's pretty buff," and they would always break out the pictures, and that makes me feel good that my kids support me in this sport, and that they're proud of me, and they recognize, the work that goes into it. So yeah, but they get a kick out of showing off their mom every now and then. So
Well, it should be because you're a mother, and you know what? As a boy who loved his mother, you are the first woman we'll love. Women come and go, wives and girlfriends, but when you lose a mother, there's no one can take that place. But it's good that they supported you. I don't know, maybe if it was my mom and I'm going to the show, I'm saying, "Hey, that's my mom up there," and some guy says, "That buff chick, that buff hot chick's your mom." Say, "Hey, what you say? What you say about my mom?" You'd be like fighting in the middle of the audience. You say, "Hey, hey." You say, "Hey, what? Oh my God, my son is fighting." Because some guy got a little excited about seeing your mom. About half naked. But it's good that I know, ladies, since I've been doing this for a while now,
yeah.
the stories I've heard, what ladies have to deal with. Like we just told you, though, when I say, "Hey guys, no deep pics," because I've heard those stories from ladies. Say, "Hey guys, we're saying weird shit." But then you have the people out there who are so, I don't know, they don't have no time in their lives. They're just haters. They talk about your ladies. They have a problem. Hey, like, she's a dude, she's a man. This lady has children. She has grandchildren. If that
Mhm.
doesn't prove that she's a woman, what else do you need? You want her to take and put the pants down in front of you?
Well, you know what? I think almost every female bodybuilder, even, and this is crazy, even some of the bikini girls, I've read that they too have been like, "Oh, you don't, you're too muscular." And it's too bad that, to each his own. That's all I can say. To each his own. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I think some of these people need to realize, and I'm going to be a little snooty. There's times I look at, you know, I've always said it. The people who are not as muscular, to me, I'm like, oh, you